Hey everybody, it's Nicole Bonner with Thrive Chiropractic Coaching, and I got really two of my favorite people here today. Of course, you guys know Dr. Colton O'Brien. Hey Colton.
What's up, everybody?
And today we have Dr. Clint Steele joining us for our podcast today, and I know he has some goodies for us today. So, why don't you kick it off, Colton?
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for being here, and Dr. Clint Steele, thanks so much for joining us today. Really excited just to hear more about you and what you're doing. But for those who don't know, would you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about who you are and your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do the short version. I graduated in '93, set out to conquer the world through chiropractic. You know, my last name being Steele, man of steel. I thought I was Superman, right? I was going to change the world. Unfortunately, I was, and so many of us we're slapped in the face with a community that says, Doc, just take care of my neck and low back pain, and an insurance model that says, hey, you can only take care of neck and low back pain. So, raising a family, I had to pay the bills. 17 years I got caught in that rut, man, and I couldn't figure out a way out. I had, I was seeing 130, 140 a week. So I wasn't starving, relatively speaking, I was doing okay, but I had a PVA of 12, okay, patient visit average of 12, meaning people saw me 12 times and then they left, never to be seen again, right? Not only a poor business model, but a poor healthcare model. And it was stressing me out. I used to have hair like you, Colton, black, man, it was beautiful. But I was so stressed out, constantly looking for new patients, it all went away.
Wow.
And so 17 years go by and I said, I'm done. I'm never going to do this again. I quit. I walked away. I had a PVA of 12, 130, 140 a week. I was seeing probably 99% neck and low back pain, 99% insurance based. I set out to change the world in other ways. We set a goal of performing 1 million acts of kindness in 1 year. We hit 2.8 million acts of kindness in 1 year. It was amazing, but it didn't make any money. And so I found myself broke, not wanting to get back into chiropractic. I started selling Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door, right? Very embarrassing for me to call up family members and say, hey, can I come demonstrate this vacuum cleaner? And they would say, what are you talking about? Aren't you a doctor? Like, what are you talking about? I got a letter from my grandmother about 3 months in that basically said she was ashamed of me and I should be ashamed of myself. And I was upset with my grandmother for about 3 days. I mean, I didn't like her very much. And on the fourth day, I woke up and I said, she's right. And so I got back in. I had $1,000 to my name. I opened back up in a 750 square foot office space, all I could afford. I had to work a deal with that landlord just to get that. Zero advertising, zero staff. I went from 0 to 500 patient visits a week in 6 months, focusing 100% on the brain and nervous system, 100% cash, no insurance. Within probably 3 months, I had people coming to me for not neck and low back pain, but things like early onset dementia, anxiety, depression, IBS, bladder problems, like stuff that we know chiropractic can help, but most people don't come see us for it. So that's the short version, believe it or not. So I'll stop there.
Wow.
Clint,
Go ahead.
I've been helping a lot of people this past year open practices, and they're in similar situations where, like, they can't get a business loan because their student loans are so high, and so they're starting out the exact same way. So what did you do that, I mean, you obviously had to do something, obviously you weren't doing like digital marketing, $2,000 a month, but you had to do something to make people know that you were there, you were available to attract all these people into your practice. What was it?
Yeah. I knew I had to differentiate myself, right? Because I found out very quickly in my old practice too, and in my new practice, if I said I was a chiropractor, what does everyone assume, right? And I got this from a mailman that was across the street. I said, I'm the chiropractor across the street. And he says, oh, good to know. Glad I don't need you. Why doesn't he need me? Because he thinks I only focus on neck and low back pain. I said, you probably think that's because I focus on neck and low back pain. Actually, I said I'm a brain-based chiropractor. I focus on the brain and nervous system because let me ask you, mailman, what coordinates every function in your body? Well, my brain. So if your brain isn't functioning properly and communicating with your body properly, could that cause health problems? Yeah. Guess who became a patient? He came in for his asthma. Not too long after that, his sister was also referred to me for some female health problems, right? And so I found out very quickly I got to differentiate myself. And so I started calling myself a brain-based chiropractor. Now, I say that to chiropractors, and chiropractors are like, well, isn't all chiropractic about the brain? Well, yeah, it is. If you make it about the brain, which most don't, okay? Number two, when you say that to the public, what happens? They're like, well, what do you mean? How's that different than regular chiropractic, right? But it opens up their mind to something new, right? And so that's what I started. I didn't have money to advertise. So I started out, I went to, get this, Nicole, you're going to love this, is I would go to B&I meetings, right? Now, B&I meetings are like $600 a year. They were back then. I couldn't afford that. But what I found out was I could go as a guest 2 times to a meeting, okay? And if there wasn't another chiropractor there, I could actually give a 1-minute spiel, okay? If there was a chiropractor there, no problem. I still got business cards, okay? And then I would reach out to these people and say, hey, I'm going to be seeing a lot of people in my office. What do let's get together. Let me learn more about what you do and how I can refer to you. Let's meet at my office. And so what we did was we met at my office, and I would focus on them. Okay. What do you do? How do you, what's a good referral? And then in return, guess what they asked? Well, how can I help you? Right. And so I'd say, I'm so glad you asked. And I would take them through, I don't know if you teach this, Nicole, but we take them through a 5-minute tour of the office. And that tour wasn't about, the x-ray room is there and the bathroom is over here. It's about specific things that are on the wall to show them how I'm different, right? And we start off in the waiting room with testimonials, not back and neck pain testimonials, but IBS testimonials, dementia testimonials, learning disorder testimonials in kids, stuff like that. So automatically they started to open up their eyes. I remember one lady came in, she was a reflexologist. She said, oh, I know what you do as a chiropractor. I said, well, let me give you a tour. By the end of that 5-minute tour, not only was she coming in, but halfway through, she says, oh my gosh, this probably could help my son who's 12 and still wet in the bed. And then a little bit later on, this could probably help my 17-year-old daughter who has anxiety. By the end of that, I had 4 new patients, her husband, and her son and her daughter. Okay. So again, differentiation. You got to differentiate yourself. Sorry, that's a long answer, but.
That's a great answer, because Tony Robbins says that people will pay up to 4 times higher for something that's different. Yeah.
Plus, along that point, Nicole, thank you, because now what happens is, what happens to the value of what you do? If they think you're just a back pain doctor, when their back pain goes away, are you valuable anymore? No. But if they know you're working on their brain and nervous system, which is causing not only their back pain, but also causing their sleep issues and their reproductive issues and their immune system issues and their digestive issues and whatever else, now the value of what you do does what?
Goes up.
Goes way up, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow,
Colt, do you have a question?
kind of more just
I see a question brewing in there.
Just more of like a reflection.
It's the steam, man.
Yeah, it's coming off. Well, I mean, that story really relates because I feel like B&I has been like a lifeline for my business. I'm like 9 months in now. And I've noticed, so I was going through my Google reviews today, just reading them, and it's awesome, like, great testimonials, but there's so much, talking about, oh, neck and back pain. If you're having pain, this, that, like go see Dr. O'Brien. And it's just, really something that I'm starting to understand now, like how much of my education, or just like I was doing anything I could to just get that person in the door, especially early on. And what advice would you have to someone, like I feel like half my clients are like, subluxation based care. And then the other is like, hey doc, I have terrible back pain, right? So what would you do like in shoes like that, where you kind of, your clinics like kind of split and you want to like transition everything to more of a brain nervous system based type care?
Great question.
I'm going to answer that, but let me go back to the B&I thing, okay, real quick. Because what I started doing, and I didn't finish the talk on that, but I would go to these, when I had a 1-minute spiel, I would say I'm a brain-based chiropractor, and then I would ask the question, what coordinates every function in your body? And then what I started doing was I actually took, I had a poster made up and I had it framed, and I would actually walk in with this. And it was a girl that was 12 years old that was on 3 anxiety medications that we got her off, right? It was a little baby. that had, I can't remember her problem. We had a gentleman there that had erectile dysfunction that shared his testimonial. And I would go over these in that 1 minute spiel. And without question, every time I left one of those meetings, I had at least one new patient, even though I was only a guest.
Yeah.
I had at least one new patient. And people would come up to me and say, well, I see Dr. Joe for, neck and low back pain, but they don't take care of like that stuff. Like they don't take care of the brain and nervous system. Now, I'm not into poaching patients, but at the same time, if someone else isn't going to take care of a brain and nervous system for an individual, you better believe I am. Okay.
Mhm.
So to your question, Doc, is, and one of the things, again, I want to backtrack a little bit. When you say subluxation based, okay. Again, when you say subluxation based, you're still back doctor, right? Because that subluxation is happening in the back, right? And so you can run rolling thermal, you can do, SEMG of the back. It's all still spine.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
And the other thing that I tell docs is this: does something have to cause the subluxation? Or does it happen on its own? Right? That's the big question for docs, because something has to cause that subluxation. Subluxations don't happen on their own. They happen because of these three things right here, right? DD talked about them over 100 years ago: thoughts, trauma, toxins. And so where does that come from? It's not these three things that cause it. It's the inability for the brain and nervous system to adapt to these three things. That's when a subluxation occurs. Okay. So again, even to your point, Doc, subluxation based, let's take it to the next level. Let's take it to the cause. Okay. But what we do is we teach, I don't know if we have time, but I'll go through a 2-minute spiel here real quick, if it's okay.
Do it.
What I call the fire alarm analogy. Okay.
Yes, do it. I heard this. Do it.
Okay. So here's what happens. Someone comes in with back pain, or I should say someone comes in for back pain, but they're also coming in with high blood pressure and sleep problems. Okay. It's our job to make sure they understand that this back problem is a brain problem, and that brain problem is also causing their high blood pressure and their sleep problems. So we go through their history. We're focused on their back pain. That's why they came in. Absolutely. At some point, though, what I like to do is set that aside and just say, hey, listen, Mrs. Jones, you got a lot going on here. But what I want to do is I just want to take a minute real quick to share with you a little bit more in detail what I do as a brain-based chiropractor, how I'm different than other chiropractors, or what you think chiropractic might be, and how I might be able to help you. Is that okay? Awesome. First question, Mrs. Jones, what coordinates every function in your entire body? Almost everyone says brain. Okay. And as soon as they say brain, guys, get this. As soon as they say brain, now all of their health problems are related to what? The brain. We just asked them, right? So let me take you through a scenario here, Mrs. Jones. Let me ask you, if that's the case, let's say the fire alarm were to go off right now. What would happen to your heart rate, do you think? Colton, go through this with me if you don't mind. What would happen to your heart rate?
Go up.
What would happen to your breathing rate?
Go up.
What would happen to your muscle tension?
I would tense up, I imagine,
Why?
because I'm going into that fight or flight survival state.
You got to survive. You got to escape the burning building. Your brain perceived the environment as stressful, said to your body, we got to escape and change physiologic function. Now, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's say it's a false alarm. You come back into the building 10, 15 minutes later. What should happen to your heart rate now, Colton?
Should go down.
Breathing rate?
Slow down.
Muscle tension?
I should be relaxed
Why?
because the stressor is gone. So
The stress is gone. I can now move into what we call healing mode. We got survival mode, healing mode. Now understand, your brain cannot heal when it's in survival mode. Also understand, your brain doesn't know the difference between a fire alarm stress or an imagined stress or a relationship stress or a financial stress or I'm late to work stress. You ever experience any of those stressors, Colton?
Yeah, every day.
Regularly, right? We all do. The question is, how well do you recover from those stressors when they're gone, and can you? Because here's the deal, Colton. You came in for back pain. Let me ask you. I think what's happening with you is you have what's called a brain and nervous system imbalance. We call it stress brain syndrome. Let me explain why. Your back pain. We said when your brain thinks the fire alarm is going off, what's that doing to muscle tension?
Increasing it.
Is your brain better able to coordinate healing if your muscles are tense or nice and relaxed?
I'd imagine nice and relaxed.
Absolutely. So that explains your back pain. But in addition, I know you didn't come in for this, but this is the same problem, which is a brain problem. You've got some high blood pressure issues. If your brain thinks the fire alarm is going off, what's that going to do to your blood pressure?
So I think I'd have high blood pressure when that's going on.
You got to escape the burning building. Your blood pressure goes up so you can get more blood supply to certain areas, right?
Mhm.
So if your brain always thinks the fire alarm is going off, what's that going to do to your blood pressure all the time?
I guess the high blood pressure becomes my new normal.
Well, you keep saying I guess, Colton, but I don't want you to guess. I want you to know. Is that what it does? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Now, in addition, you've got some sleep issues. If your brain thinks the fire alarm is going off, does it want to sleep?
Mm-mm.
No, it wants to survive. So, Colton, what I'd like to do, we're going to check out your low back pain for sure, do all the exam there, what we're going to do. But in addition, what I'd like to do is actually assess your brain and nervous system and see how well it's adapting to stress and then recovering once that stress is gone. Because after all, Colton, let me ask you, you've been suffering from this for a while. You're on some medications, just covering up symptoms. Do you want to actually get to the cause, or you just want to continue to cover up symptoms for the rest of your life?
I want to get to the cause.
All right, let's do it.
Nice.
That's it. That's it right there.
I love the questioning too. Like you're not telling them the answers; they're coming to the answers themselves. So that's really cool.
So I learned that selling Kirby vacuum cleaners. Even though I hated it, there was some really good things that came out of that. I learned that telling is selling. People don't want to be sold. People want to buy, but they don't want to be sold. So if you're telling, you're just trying to sell them in their minds. But if you ask them the question and they answer, huge difference. Now they own it.
I love that. I love that. Clint, one of the things that I love that you're doing, and you and I have talked about this quite a bit, is like creating some sort of standard in our profession and being able to measure brain and nervous system function. So you use a tool in your office called the NeuroInfinity. Can you tell us about that tool and how that creates a level of standardization, how it actually increases the standard of our practices in chiropractic?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Nicole. Yeah, basically, if I ask the doc, what body system ultimately is chiropractic about, right? Hopefully everyone answers brain and nervous system. Well, the reason we're known to the public as back doctors is because everything is focused on the back. Even, Titron, rolling thermal, like I'm not saying if you want to do those, great, do them. But understand from a patient perspective, that's still a back doctor, right? X-rays, the whole thing. And so we're known for what we measure. So what we do with the NeuroInfinity is we actually measure the brain, right? We measure the adaptability of the brain and nervous system, which according to National Institute of Health, numerous experts all across the world, over 90% of all disease is due to stress, but more specifically, the inability to adapt to that stress and then recover once that stress is gone. So let's just take, rolling thermal or a Titron, whatever it is, even an X-ray. Is that actually showing us that patient's ability to adapt to stress and then recover? It's showing the effects of that, but it's not actually the actual cause, right? And so what the NeuroInfinity does in a 12-minute assessment, it measures brain waves, first off, which is the cause of all this. How is stress impacting the brain? And then at the same time, we measure the physiologic function of the body, okay? So in order for you to be healthy, two things have to happen. Your brain has to do two things. It has to perceive the environment properly, and then it has to communicate that to the body. So for example, the fire alarm analogy, right? Stress changes physiologic function so I can escape. No stress should change physiologic function so I can relax and heal and recover, okay? So in the NeuroInfinity measures EEG, it measures heart rate variability, heart rate, respiration rate, skin conductance, hand temperature, and SEMG of the traps. But most importantly, it does it during a stress and then a 90-second recovery period, and then a different stress, and then a 90-second recovery period. So we can see if they can adapt and recover, right? For example, just to give you an idea, let's say I take your heart rate and it's 66 beats per minute. What would you say about your heart health, Colton?
Say it again. It's 66 beats per minute.
66 beats per minute. How's your heart health?
Okay. Or
Pretty good, right? If the fire alarm goes off, though, what should happen to your heart rate?
should increase.
And if it doesn't, is that a problem?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And let's say it does go up, but then 15 minutes later, it's false alarm. What should happen to your heart rate when you come back into the office?
It should go back to normal.
And if it doesn't, is that a problem?
It is.
Okay. It's called a dynamic measurement. It's called allostasis. Okay. Most of us know homeostasis. Homeostasis is Obviously, the ability to maintain, balance, right, in our physiologic function. Allostasis takes it to a whole new level. I believe that DD and BJ would have used this term, but it wasn't invented until late 1980s. It takes homeostasis to the next level in that it allows, it measures, or it's the ability for the brain and nervous system to maintain homeostasis during stress and then also during recovery. Okay. And so most docs today are measuring spine, but they're also doing it in what's called a static relaxed state. So for example, some docs measure HRV in their office using different equipment. Great. But it's in a static relaxed state. Is that true to life? Right? If this person all of a sudden gets into a fight with their spouse, or they're at work and they're under cognitive stress, could that change their HRV? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Absolutely could. Should we know that as their practitioner? Yes or no? But most docs don't, right? And so that's the power behind this, the ability for the brain to perceive the environment, see if it can adapt to stress and then recover, and then how that changes physiologic function. Most people we see, just to give you an idea, about 60% of the public, they'll go from a stress, just an example, like we do a baseline eyes open. That's a stress compared to eyes closed. What do you think should happen to a person's heart rate when they go from eyes open, eyes closed?
Slow down.
Should go down, right? And about 60% of the public right now, we're seeing when they close their eyes, their heart rate actually speeds up.
Wow, that's interesting.
Is that a problem?
I'd say so.
Yeah. Does the patient now see that as a problem as well? Yeah.
Where?
So, Mrs. Jones, let me ask you, if your brain is having a hard time coordinating your function of your heart to speed up and slow down when it should, how can it coordinate the healing of your low back pain? How can it coordinate your blood pressure? How can it coordinate your sleep patterns? How can it coordinate your reproductive issues? It can't. Right? See how easy that is, man?
Yeah,
so easy.
That's cool. And
Are you, oops, sorry. Go ahead, Colton.
yeah, I was just kind of feeding off that. You go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you, are you scanning on every visit or only on re-exams, or what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, so the way we work it is we scan the first visit, and then usually we'll put them on a care plan, okay, that's specific to their neural patterns. And then at 6 weeks, we'll reevaluate. But with that said, we start off with a minimum 6-month care plan. Some docs are a year-long care plan. Most are at 6 months.
Okay.
We reevaluate at 6 weeks. Make sure we're moving in the right direction, right? Make sure everything's moving in the right direction. If that's the case, we're doing the right things. Great. We usually won't do that again. Some docs, every 6 weeks, they like to do it. I usually don't do it again until about month 5 or month 6. And the reason for that is because these neural patterns started when they were in their mom's womb. And so by the age of 7, these are ingrained. So they take a while to change, okay? Usually about 6 months to change in the right direction. And so that's why we recommend usually a minimum of 6 months.
Okay.
Awesome.
So what happens is this. So I'll just give you an example, right? You working with new docs. Doc, I was speaking to a new doc the other day. She's been running another business, which is she does float tanks, right? You familiar with float tanks?
Yep, I've been in one.
Obviously very beneficial for the brain. Actual research that shows it increases theta waves, okay, which is your healing brainwave, right? Very beneficial. So she's been running this. She just graduated. She just opened up her clinic in the same building. 6 new patients, okay? 6 new patients. She doesn't have a neuroinfinity yet, although as of today she does, but as of this talk, she didn't. So 6 new patients, right? So I said, what does a care plan look like for you? She says, well, 2 of them, they're coming in twice a week for 4 weeks, and then the other ones are coming in twice a week for 6 weeks. Okay, great. What do you charge? $50 an adjustment. So what's the case average for these? First off, we don't know. She hasn't been in practice that long, so we don't know if they're going to continue after. But let's say they stop after 4 weeks or 6 weeks. We're looking at roughly a $1,200 case average, right? $1,200. Actually, not even that. Is it 6 times 50? It's not even that. It's $400 or $500, right? Which sucks, by the way. Okay. So I said to her, well, why didn't you recommend? Oh, I said, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm just doing adjustments. Why didn't you recommend float tanks? Well, because I don't have any proof that they need it. Okay. You have the neuroinfinity. You show that they have low theta waves. We have proof that this improves theta waves. You need more theta waves. So let's include this in the package, right? What do you
Mhm.
charge for that? $85 to $100 per session. Okay, so 2 sessions over 6 weeks, we're talking 12 sessions at $100, $1,200. She just went from a $500 case average to a $1,700 case average. Why? Because she had the technology to prove that they had a brain problem, right? That's the power behind this. You know, money's not the only thing, right? We're talking money right now, but we're also talking retention levels go up, referral levels go up. But most importantly, we start seeing things other than neck and low back pain. Right? We start seeing people's lives change. I just got off the phone with the doc just before we jumped on this call. He's got a CA that's been adjusted for like 2 years, right? 25 years old. He just got a neuroinfinity and he just measured her. She has a resting heart rate of 101 beats per minute. Guys, her HRV is through the roof. It's like unbelievable. Okay. Her resting breathing rate is 16 breaths per minute, which is way too high. She's on anxiety medication. She's on sleep medication, and she has ADD. He says, this makes so much sense now. Now I know how to care for this. She's been getting adjusted for 2 years. So what happens, do you think, when her anxiety gets better, her sleep issues get better? What is she going to refer? Is she going to refer someone to him for back pain or anxiety or sleep issues, right?
Mhm.
That's how this all changes. Sorry, I keep going on and on, man.
No, you're
No,
awesome. I
it's
love the
keep going. It's awesome.
conversation. I think this is what we need to hear.
Yep.
Awesome. So you guys, we are right at about our half-hour mark. Colton, I want to give you, you're a new practitioner. You're not even in practice a full year yet. I want to give you an opportunity before we end our podcast to ask Clint, any other question that you have about, being new in practice and how and how what he's doing from pain to brain relates to your practice.
Yeah, well, I think Clint's provided a lot of really good information, and I've seen a lot of blind spots that maybe I had been, not been able to see before this conversation. And the biggest thing is just like starting with the understand. Like, I think it's we're so ingrained, especially in school, to talk spine, 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 and it was kind of like ingrained in my conversation. And so, yeah, I guess it's kind of back to what I was saying earlier, and I know you hit on it a lot, but like, so the people that I already have, like, they're fans, they love coming in, love getting adjusted. How can I start to kind of flip that side of the practice that is so focused on neck and back pain?
Yeah,
And
that's a
like,
great question.
whether it be for wellness, because like you said, like once their back pain's gone, they're gone. But like, I love my people and I want them to stay, and I think they like me enough that they want to stay too, and they're getting great results.
Yeah.
But I want them to know why they're getting the results.
Mrs. Jones, when we started off, you were coming in here for back pain. I just want to take a minute and share with you a little bit more in detail, what I actually do as a chiropractor here. And if you want to call yourself a brain-based chiropractor, Colton, go for it. But what I actually do here is I focus on the brain and nervous system. So let me just take you through this real quick here, Mrs. Jones. What coordinates every function in your body? Yeah, absolutely, your brain. And so if your brain's not communicating properly, and you can take them through the fire alarm analogy now, Colton, it takes you a minute and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Mrs. Jones, in addition, I pulled out your file, okay, and have their file there. You were focused more on your back pain, but in addition, Mrs. Jones, I see that you have some blood pressure issues and you have some other female issues, whatever it is, right? So what I think is happening here, Mrs. Jones, is there's a brain and nervous system imbalance. And let me explain why. And then you go through basically what I just said. So, Mrs. Jones, what I'd like to do is there's some additional things I would like to do to test you. Is that okay with you? Because, Mrs. Jones, listen, do you want to just cover up the symptoms? I know you're in here for back pain, but once your back pain's gone, that doesn't mean this is all fixed. Do you just want to cover it up and then leave and then have to have it recur? Or do you want to actually deal with the cause?
Cause.
And then you can go into a couple things, right? If you don't have a neuroinfinity, obviously you need the neuroinfinity at some point.
Yeah.
But before that, you can do, just do me a favor, Mrs. Jones, take a deep breath for me. Okay, and standing, how do you think she's going to breathe?
Probably for their shoulders. Yeah.
Mrs. Jones, that's a survival mode breathing pattern right there. Okay, that's telling your brain that you're in survival mode. That's releasing hormones to help you survive. That's releasing neurotransmitters to help you survive. It's not to help you heal. Let me ask you if you can do this. Let me put my hand on your belly and see if you can actually breathe with your diaphragm. Okay, you know, when you ask people that, about 60 to 70% of the public, even when you make them conscious of it, they still can't breathe with their diaphragm.
Wow,
Is that a problem?
it's a problem.
Problem, right? And there's a couple other things. I know we're short on time. There's a couple other things you can do. I call lead-in assessments just to prove to them that they've got a brain problem. And when they can't do it, they're like, "Boy, why can't I do this? Like this is crazy," right?
What do you
And
call them,
then
Clint?
what lead? I call
What
them
do you call
lead-in assessments.
lead-in assessments? I
Yeah.
like that. So Colton, so what I would also say is I would start adding this in, like for the logistics of it, I would start adding this in on every re-exam.
I like that.
And then within like a 90-day period, your entire practice will be switched over.
Mm-hmm.
But then in addition, I'll throw in table talk, right? Every time they come in, they don't get it. You've got to be talking about the brain and nervous system. You've got to be asking about their stress. You know, how you doing today, Mrs. Jones? Oh, he's asking about my pain. No, don't do that. Mrs. Jones, how are your stress levels? Okay, what's going on with stress in your life right now? You know, and then bring it back to that. And so we have a program that's included in our packages that, you know, basically we give you table talk topics for every day of the week on a specific subject, and we back it with research, you know, around stress, around different conditions that are related back to stress, and how the chiropractic adjustment changes brain function, and et cetera. So
Very cool.
it's all encompassing.
So for me and all the young docs listening, or even docs that have been in practice for years, and this is really just striking a chord and wanting to make a change, how can they get in contact with you and NeuroInfinity and make these changes?
Yeah, and go to our website. Is our name of our company is Brain-Based Health Solutions, and so the website is brainbasedhs.com. And there's a couple things in there. If you guys on the home page, you can go to the link towards the middle of the page. We've got a video series called the Brain-Based Video Series, Chiropractic Video Series. It's like 10-minute videos over the course of 30 days. You get one each day, but it takes you through this whole process, shares the science, shares the research behind all of this, how stress affects the brain, how the chiropractic adjustment influences brain function. We've got testimonials in there, the whole thing. And then there's also one that's about a 40-minute webcast that you can download as well. That's free. And that gives docs a good introduction. I know we touched on some of the stuff here, but if you guys want some more in-depth stuff, that's perfect for you.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you and what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing all your goodies.
Yep. Now I'm fired up for the rest of the day.
Clint,
Probably
I'll make
what?
sure
What'd you say, Colton?
So now I'm fired up for the rest of the day.
All right. You should be fired up every day, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pumped.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll make sure your contact information is also like up on the intro, on the extra of this podcast, so everybody has it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Yes, sir.
You're so welcome. All right, everybody, let's wrap it up and we will see you soon.
Peace.